Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we introduce professionals with entrepreneurs that can help you go all in on your business. One of our favorite things to do is connect those people. We have a bunch of people that have come on the platform and shared their experience with us. Let us know what it is that we need to be good at to run a more successful business. So I appreciate you coming. First of all, I wanted to say that. Anybody that dedicates the time to myself, to the audience, so that we can learn a little bit from you is very valuable to us. So thank you for that. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on today and having me speak. So my name is Hayden Spitz, and I am the founder and owner of Boston Drone Productions. We are a full-scale production company based here in Boston. We're about 4 years old now, and we focus on everything from using cameras on the ground to drones up to 400 feet plus in the sky, and combining those to tell someone's story. And you know, instead of focusing on one specific thing like just real estate or just weddings or just one specific thing, I really focus on the storytelling aspect, being able to harness and listen to what the client needs, who they're trying to talk to, what they're trying to purvey. They're using a lot of the skills that I've learned through my marketing and entrepreneurial background to tell that story in a unique, from both, again, the multiple angles, but also the storytelling view for the client.
Sure. So I think what's so interesting about your industry is it's a little bit of blend of art and business, right? And it's learning how to not only respect your art in the way that you respect it, right? Is keep things true to yourself and keep making a product that you are proud of, but also kind of learning how to wear those business hats. How do I market? How do I hire? How do I bid for jobs? How do I do all those things? So tell me a little bit about your background and kind of how your business got started.
Yeah, so I was very lucky and I got to watch as I grew up. My dad built his own business. He's also an entrepreneur. He started his own business called Smile Boston. My mom and dad both worked together. They built that from the ground up. And so as I was born, I literally grew up in the office with them. When I was sitting at the dinner table, they were having business conversations. So I grew up really listening to that. And the one thing that's made my dad really successful is loving what he does and really loving treating the patient with care and respect and making them smile and helping them achieve more in life by being able to have confidence in themselves. And so growing up, they always told my sisters and I, it'd be great if you guys were dentists, but really do what you love because that's really what's going to make you successful in life. None of us became dentists, but it is what it is. But I really took that to heart, and I loved marketing. I loved entrepreneurship. I loved being able to create my own business, do what I loved. I've also got an ADHD brain, so I like doing multiple things at once. But that passion for being able to do these many things, tell these different kinds of stories through the same medium of video and photo, it's been incredible. And so I was really lucky to, during the pandemic and during the time before that, start into photography, into videography. It was nothing I did during college. That was purely focused on marketing, entrepreneurship. Really started photography and videography during the pandemic, learned everything I possibly can or could, and fell in love with it. And during the pandemic, my dad bought a drone for fun. And I was like, well, if you have that for fun, can I use that for some of the other gigs that I'm doing and other projects that I'm doing? It's like, absolutely. So went out, got my own license, and started doing it. And slowly I started getting more clients. And again, once you learn photography and videography, your skills just get better and better and better as you practice. But the storytelling and the listening and understanding where that comes from and combining those, that's where I think the true magic comes from. And being able to combine those skills together really just continue that word of mouth. And 4 years later, basically doubled the business every single year, and it's continuing to go. And it's really been a blessing because I love what I do. I get to work every day making my clients happy. And that's where we are today.
Absolutely. So tell me kind of what's been that superpower for you, right? Like what has been the thing that has helped your business be a little bit different from other businesses in your industry and helped you kind of continue to push forward toward success?
Yeah, I think it's I think listening and understanding that not every client needs the exact same thing. I think with a lot of videographers and photographers, the first thing you think of is, well, you got to get the skill first. And that is hard. And you got to spend a lot of time learning those things. And I did. I put my time in, I put my sweat in, I tried a whole bunch of things, whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, all those things, working with the drone on the different angles and all of that. But when it comes down to it, it's listening to what your client needs and understanding what their target audience needs. Anybody can make a video. And especially now in the day where you can film something with your iPhone and have good content that could still reach millions of viewers and go viral, it is about the video and it's an important part of it. But understanding what your clients need to see and what the end viewer wants to see. And again, what the client wants. I mean,
Right.
and in the end, you're providing a service. And if they're not happy with it and they're not seeing something that they're proud to show, that's number one. And so I think listening and understanding is key, and asking the right questions, but also putting that together and then doing what is asked, and then going above and beyond.
Sure.
And I think that part comes a lot easier when you love what you do. It's one of those things that the way that I fell into this is, I was studying the photography, I was studying the videography, and I would just watch different content creators and I would watch different videos about things, what different cameras do, what is ISO, what is aperture, what are like all these small details of every single aspect. What did different drones do? How does it work? And I was having fun doing that. And when you're doing something that you love and you're listening to the small details and you can actually enjoy that and you can just pour hours into it having fun, that's when you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think so too. No, I can agree with you too because it's exactly that balance that we were talking about earlier. Is like you have to live somewhere between art and business, right? Like the client's going to ask you for something, and let's put that way over here on this side of the spectrum, and then your artistic brain is going to say, well, I want to make this thing, and it's way over here in the spectrum. And you have to find something in the middle, right? Because while if you're too focused on something that works, right, something that creates engagement, well, you're not really speaking the client's language, right? They're like, okay, even if this thing works, like maybe this thing is corny or repetitive or just doesn't stand out that way, and maybe that's not how I want to represent my business. And then it's a little bit of coaching on the client side too. It's like, hey, while this beautiful thing is what you want, it has to inspire some sort of action from people that you depend to do business with you for your business to be successful. So it's a merge of those two things. And I think that's one of the most difficult things, especially if you're one of those people that's coming out of 4 or 6 years of school in a creative discipline and you're planning to implement those skills in a B2B environment like what I do, like what you do, or even from a B2C environment where you may be the person that's focusing on weddings, or you may be focused on, just capturing moments for people. Like it lives a place between what works and what the client asks for, and you have to be able to kind of thread that needle pretty precisely in different industries to really be successful. So what are some of the obstacles that you've kind of experienced? Like what's been difficult for you through this entire journey of trying to figure out how to wear both hats?
So there's definitely a lot of difficulties. First, I think the main thing is, you've got to find the clients. I mean, as a small business, like you said, you're wearing all of the hats. So you've got to do everything from marketing, so people know what you're doing and all of the great projects that you're doing. You're also working on finding all the clients. So you've got to go out, you got to meet new people, you've got to get your word out there, you've got to prove yourself. You've got to do all of the website focused everything so that when people look you up, they see what you're doing and see all those projects. You've got to do all the paperwork once you get those clients on and actually sell them on it and get them past that line of actually sending the check. And you've got to actually do the work. Then, you got to edit. You got to make sure you've got strong teammates around you. I mean, one of the things that I personally love about the photography and videography industry is that I have a really strong network. And I know, even just meeting people through social media or through different projects that I've done, I know a lot of really great photographers, editors, videographers around Boston. And where you learn in business school a lot that you have to be at the top, you have to be better than everyone else. You can't, let anybody else have an advantage. It hasn't been like that for me. it's really been a cohesive thing. And when I see somebody do a really cool project, I'm proud of them. I know how hard it is to be a business owner and to be in this industry, and it's awesome. And whenever, I have a job that I can't do, I feel confident sending it to them. And when I'm able to do that, it works the same way. If they see something that I can do that they don't have time for, or they're doing a wedding and they need a drone videographer and they don't have one, and it's short notice or even planned, they'll send me in and we'll work together. If I need an editor because I've got too much going on and too much load for me, I know people to reach out to. And that has been a strong advantage of using the community. And again, when I get to use somebody else's help, I get to support them, they get to support me, and it just comes full circle. Um, Other things that I think have been a challenge, again, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but I've seen it from other videographers or other parts, is that, when you're talking about a video, people come in all the time not understanding what, you know, goes into creating a video. And they don't understand the cost associated with a video too. So you've got to be able to ask the right questions and be able to explain the small details of what you're going to be doing and what's going to happen on that day and what goes into that. Because they could be coming in, with a small, $500 budget and be like, I need to shoot a commercial, and you're like, well, you know, here's all the things that come into it, but you got to explain that so they can understand and either go back to it or figure out a solution. Or, it could just be a quick drone shot of a house, and maybe that is something that we can work with. But explaining what those small details are and making sure that they understand, not so that I understand, but so that they understand and they can come back and they can do more research or understanding, and come back with something cohesive. Because I mean, even people that I've talked to that we haven't been able to set something up just because they didn't have a budget for it, I was able to explain it really well to them, and they'd go talk to somebody else and they'd be like, hey, I know that we didn't get this project going, but I have somebody else that actually needed this and we were just talking about it. So they're going to be reaching out to you. And it has worked out. Um, and that's something again, even learned from my dad. And again, dentistry and photography is not very similar, but when you go into a doctor's office or something, you go in not understanding exactly what's going on. These guys have studied what they're doing. They have put their
Right.
hours into it. They have understood it. They know why things cost this way, and they know why their expertise is worth that much. Um, but if you don't explain that in specific detail, then they walk out of there going, I don't know what we just talked about, and now I have to spend X amount of money, and they're mad about it. But if you can actually explain it and get them to understand, then they can go back and go like, oh wait, all right, this makes sense. Let's actually go with that other plan to be able to do what we need in my budget, and then you end up both happy. And so, lots of different things that can go wrong, but you can fix.
Sure. And how much time do you spend on continuing education? I think that's another thing that people really don't realize about your industry is that there's so much technology and overhead in technology that you deal with as a videographer. I mean, if you're someone with no overhead, right? You own your car and you own your house, or you live with your parents, or you're not paying for any of the normal stuff that you deal with in life. Just the technology that you deal with in your videography business is a couple $1,000s a month. You know what I mean? From drone licensing, insurance, products like Premiere. You're probably buying packs of sounds or packs of images, or however that you can get those assets that you can link in one cohesive timeline to make a project work. How much time do you spend continuing to learn things about your industry that make you, basically different than the rest of your industry as far as relying on those same pieces of technology?
I guess the answer is I don't know if I can give a specific answer to that, because the answer is I'm always learning.
Mm-hmm.
If I hear something new, I'm going to jump at that. And again, taking it back from what I've learned, my dad always goes for the newest technology in his company. I always try to do the same in mine. When I'm watching the drone industry, especially, there are always new drones coming out, and with like DJI and things coming out, they're like Apple. Every single, bunch of months, they're coming out with the new version of the next drone with better lenses, with better technology, with better sensing, with better automation. Um, and so I'm always keeping my eye out, always learning. Photography and videography is always the same, but the technology that allows us to expand on that is ever changing. So we're always keeping our eye to the ground and ear to the ground. But as for technology companies, I mean, you're right. Even just to own a business in Boston, just to own the name, it's $500. So you're
Mm-hmm.
already starting there. And then you're talking about Adobe licensing, which is a crazy amount. And then you're talking about, I use Artlist.io, which it does all of my sounds and music for all of my projects. And that allows my, clients to post those videos and everything without getting caught for sound. Um, and so that's a few hundred every year. And then all the insurance for not only the business insurance, but the uh, drone insurance, and then
Yeah.
specialty insurance when you're flying, inside, or special projects. I mean, you're talking about not only the drones that can be some $1,000, you're talking about the cameras that are multi-$1,000, and then talking about gimbals, you're talking about lenses, which are stupid amounts of money. Like
Yeah.
the
Your
camera,
lens, it's more expensive than your camera.
oh, some of them. I mean, right now my camera is $4,000, and that's not even including the lenses, right?
Right.
So all of those costs, and again, they go over multiple years, but you know, things wear down, things break, things come out with the newer versions. And so there's always more money being put right back into the business. And so it's that, it's also time, it's a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
and so when we go out on that shoot, again, we might be there for 2, 3, 4 hours, but it's a culmination of learning everything we've done to make sure that we can get you the best video in the timeline that we set that hits your message. Um, and again, that's right there, 4 years of understanding how to listen and tell people stories for college. And I think, all of these things are super important. So it's not just
And I think people that you need to realize this too, as a business owner, not you, but the people that are listening. That's what you want from a company that is providing a service for you. You want someone that has enough overhead and enough movement within their business that it's important to them to deliver your project in a timely manner. You know what I mean? It's important for them to, it's just as important for them to complete a project as it is to begin a new project, right? Like, I think that's an issue that you see a lot of people fall into is like, oh, people miss deadlines. This project is late. Well, a lot of times as a business owner, you're spending time, creating business. You're being that marketing department, right? And if you have to pay your bills and it's the end of the month and rent's coming up or your house payment's coming up, or your car payment soon, or insurance is about to come out of your bank account, like sometimes you have to use that time to go and create business. And there are times where it has hindered people from being able to complete projects the way that people expect. You want someone with overhead. You want someone that is highly invested in their business, and it is good for them to move your project timeline along as fast as possible while still delivering you what you're looking for. Right? Like, you want professionals.
yeah,
You want people that have invested in their business and invested in themselves and that work really hard to be really good at what they do, and that take that same type of care and passion that they have about their own business and they bring that to your brand. That's really what you're after. So I commend you, because I know it's difficult. Like, I know it's difficult from a time perspective, from a monetary perspective, and we're all salespeople. I mean, sales is difficult enough within itself. So I commend you for making it happen, my friend. It's not easy. A lot of people, I think, want to dive into these low barrier to entry industries, right? And the reality is this, right? Like, most of you listening to this podcast have a $2,000 camera in your pocket. That's just the reality. But you want someone that is dedicated to moving your project along as quickly as possible, is able to do revisions and changes the way you want. You don't want projects to fall on the wayside. That's something that we always deal with as business owners, is we have these really, really good ideas and we do the first handful of steps in implementing them, and then we get caught up in our regular lives or the day-to-day things that we have to do within our business. But when you outsource things like this, when you outsource projects, or you make your marketing life easier by finding someone that is a professional in that world, It solves a lot of those problems. It becomes one big box, and you can just put a check mark on it and move on about your day and do the things that generate revenue for you. So I understand your industry. I understand how difficult it is just from having a handful of lights and cameras pointed at myself a decent amount. So it's a really cool thing what you do, and I understand the language that um, most of the videographers in the industry are using now, and just how difficult it is to create business because like I said, it's getting a little more commoditized, but the reality is that the product is very different when you're working with a professional than when you're working with some sort of at-home product or some sort of commoditized product that you find online where you're uploading footage and seeing what you get back. So there's I guess it's just a little status update for the industry. There's still room. There's still room for you. There's still a huge need for people with your expertise, and it makes me excited to see where your business is going to go. So if people want to buy something from you, if they have questions for you, if they have a referral for you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so I mean, I do a lot on Instagram. You can also reach me at Hayden at bostondronepro.com. There's also the website, bostondronepro.com. But I got to agree with you 100%. And I think, again, when you're talking about especially timelines and dates, I mean, that's a part of communication as well. You got to have someone that you can trust in a business that knows and is going to listen to your story, what you're trying to tell, what the client is trying to target, and how to reach those people. And once you have that, you have the trust with the videographer, you guys have that teamwork. And again, you agree that your services are equal to the amount of what's going to be satisfying for your business and going to help you grow, because that's what it is in the end. I mean, that's everything. And I love it. I love telling people stories. And it's again everything from parties, weddings, buildings. I've done buildings down in the seaport and real estate, both commercial and residential. I do a lot of parties, interiors and exteriors with the drone and cameras. I've done you name it, clubs in New York, done things for the zoo, and you know, I've done a lot of personal things too, even from like weddings, even celebration of life ceremonies. And for personal or for commercial use, everybody has a story. Everybody has something that they want to tell, that they want to capture as a memory. And you can always do it at the cost that you want to do it at. There's always somebody that's there for it. But if you put in the time, you want that thing to be a memory that you're going to hold, that you're going to be proud of at the end of that project. That's what just gets me going and it gets me excited, whether it's a nonprofit, for profit, or personal use. Um, Being able to tell that story and see that change in a client when they can watch it and feel those emotions. Like when a client comes back to me and tells me that my video helped one of their teammates understand what they were doing wrong during a practice or during a championships, and now they're going to be doing so much better in the next year's competition, or that they loved the video and they were actually crying because it was a memorial of someone that they love, or a wedding when they get to see that final moment and see everything put together and they get to cherish that for the rest of their lives, or even just a building when they say the client saw it and immediately bought it, not even going to check the house, just seeing the photos and videos. That was it for them, and they were like, "Yes, we're getting it." Those things keep me going. And anybody wants to have that feeling and have that talk, I'm always open.
Sure. And the last question that I have for you here is really kind of in relationship to the name of the podcast, right? But you've burned the ship. You've gone all in on your business and you've decided that, hey, this is this thing. I want to make it work, right? I love doing this. I love working with the clients that I work with. I love rendering my service. I know my industry very well. For people that are watching and are also seeking that same feeling, that same experience, right? Why should they burn the ship, right? Like, sum up this whole entrepreneur journey for me from your perspective, and then tell people that are seeking out that same experience why they should give it a try.
So I think there's a twofold to that question. I don't think entrepreneurship and doing your own business is for everybody. It is hard. It is not easy to stop what you're doing and put your all into a business. I think once you have a love and a passion for something and you truly are excited by the work that you're doing, it will be a lot easier to do. But for me, when I was working 9 to 5, and you know, you're capped off at your salary, you're doing what you're told, you have as much creative ability as your job allows you to do. When you're working for yourself, all of a sudden the world is yours. And every little thing you do is an opportunity cost. You can go hang out with your friends, but then there's something that you're not doing for the business. You can, go do a gig, but then you might miss out on a time with your friends. You've got to understand how to do your job, do what's worth it to you, find that balance. And it's not easy. You've got to rely on yourself. Um, and I was very lucky to find my way and have a lot of experience and have a lot of great people that have led me to where I'm going and where I continue to thrive. Um, but it is, it's really something when, like I said, you love what you do, you love working with people, you've got people that you can trust, you've got money saved, because again, don't go into this with nothing. You've got to make sure that you're going to survive a few months if you have bad months. I mean, my first year of business, we did maybe 10 to 15 gigs over the full year. That's just how it was. And, still working other places and doing other things. But it started off slow. But it was that passion, and I loved what I was doing, and I was still learning, and I was growing. And we've blown that number out of proportion in the last 3 years. Um, and it's crazy to see and crazy to see the growth. But it's not overnight. Like, even you see these artists on TikTok and things like that, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're an overnight sensation," and you listen to their comments, and they're like, "No, this was years of hard work, and then I finally got lucky." And,
Mm-hmm.
and it is true. I have done a lot of different gigs that have led me to different people, that have led me to bigger opportunities, that have led me to the right place. And yeah, I will definitely say take caution when taking this journey. It's not easy. It's not um, something you can just jump into. You've got to put a lot of thought, a lot of creativity. Um, but if you love it, if you love what you're doing, you have a lot of passion for it, and that will help you, go through those hard days when, you're trying to figure out, am I going to give up? Where do I see this going in a few years? If it's going on this path, what do I got to do? What do I got to change? If you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to have that drive. Um, and so that's really my 2 cents with it. But use
Yeah,
your
sure.
resources, ask for questions, ask for help. Don't be afraid, share your journey, um, and love what you do, and
Yeah.
love, uh, and that'll carry you through. That's
Yeah,
that.
I recommend a book for everyone called Start with Why from Simon Sinek, and it will really put you in the frame and mind of why do I do what I do, right? And how can I use that feeling of why I do what I do to make myself successful? And I've said it over and over again on the podcast, take care of your customers, right? And utilize that experience with your customers to the best of your ability, whether it's learning something, asking for a referral, doing something for free that creates a really profitable relationship for you later. Like that's kind of part of our industry. You know what I mean? So it's all of those experiences are good things. If you have questions for me, if you have questions for Hayden, please reach out to us. I appreciate your time very much, Hayden. It means a lot to me. I look forward to doing this again, finding some people in our industry to connect you with, and staying in contact, because I think what you're doing is really, really cool. And I think that as the technology continues to improve and people really understand that, no matter how nice that lens on the back of your iPhone may be, there's always going to be a world for professionals in this space. So I appreciate you very much. We'll edit this over a couple of weeks and we'll get it out, and you're more than welcome to anything that we put out to use yourself. So I'll touch base with you soon. And if you need anything else, just let me know, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your time. And if anybody, like you said, needs anything from me, always feel free to reach out. And whether it's questions on what we talked about or more, it's an awesome industry, and And again, the one contrary thing I'd say is, I started out with my iPhone. I started out with just my phone running around Boston, seeing the sun rise up and starting to take photos there. Um, and my camera was not even as good as the lenses that are on our iPhones now on the 15 and plus. Use what you have, practice with what you can, and continue it. And again, that's where you're going to find that love. But again, thank you for having me. And if you ever need anything from me, please always feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Sounds great. Thank
See
you.
you.